Extreme temperatures have us under a weather alert. Our team is timing out the most dangerous times to be outside and when we could get cooling relief. A mother losing the fight to keep her daughter out of trouble.
When she came home, she went on a school call that night and been getting arrested since on home detention.
A Fox 45 News exclusive.
They need to start locking these kids up. They need to change the laws.
We make this mother's pleas for help and for change heard.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Breaking news to report as we come on the air at 4 o'clock. A city police officer fires her weapon at a suspect who hit her with a car trying to escape. City police say officers were investigating a potential shoplifting incident at a 7-Eleven on Wilkins Avenue.
The suspect got in a vehicle and drove away, injuring the officer's hands. That's when police say officers began firing. The suspect did manage, though, to get away. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maxine Stryker in for Mary tonight.
And I'm Kai Jackson. The officer who was hit and a second officer who experienced chest pains were taken to the hospital. The acting police commissioner says the search for the suspect is underway.
We do have a good photo of him, and he is considered to be dangerous if anyone runs into him or happens to see him out on the street.
And take a look at this. The man on the left is the suspect police are searching for tonight. They say he got away in that black SUV on the right side of your screen. Anyone with any information on who this is or where they may be tonight should contact Baltimore police.
We have a weather alert right now as the Baltimore area faces a severe heat wave. This is a look at conditions across the area, including the Inner Harbor and also Towson.
This week, we've already seen multiple record highs for this time of year with dangerous temperatures in the high 90s. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is in now with the latest on what comes next.
And guys, I know I spent most of my Labor Day holiday weekend on the water. That's the place to be, or any place cool, and make sure you're drinking plenty of water. You don't usually expect this time of year to really get into these 100-degree type temperatures, and we're already, at least meteorologically, outside of summer. I mean, still, yeah, until, you know, the 20th, 21st, 22nd, we are technically in summertime, but meteorologically, summer ended at the end of August, and heat advisory continues 2 days of record high temperatures over the weekend and yesterday, and now another day, day 3 in a row, where we have smashed record high temperatures as a heat advisory continues for the rest of today, and likely we'll have another one tomorrow. The pattern not going to change very much, and only gradual changes thereafter. Right now, 98 here in Baltimore, the old record for the day, 96. 94 at Cockeysville, 97 at Westminster, nearly 100 at Frederick. Temperatures a little cooler, as I mentioned, near the water. Annapolis, you're at 89, but 93 at Stevensville. You add in the heat index, it feels like 100 at BWI, 102 at Columbia, 102 at Cockeysville, and 106 dangerous degrees there at Elkton. So the remainder of the afternoon into this evening, again, you're going to have to stay hydrated. Still hanging this hour at about 98, feeling like 101. 96 a real field temperature at 7. And then we only cool into the upper 70s by the wee hours of tomorrow morning. Another hot one on the way for tomorrow, but there is relief eventually in sight. Let you know when in my Weather Authority forecast.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. The weather having an impact on Baltimore students. Kids at 11 city schools were sent home early today because the city does not have air conditioning installed in their classrooms. With the heat wave, the classes are literally too hot for students to sit in. The school system had plans in place to install air conditionings at all schools before the year started, but now say it will not be completed until the remaining schools until the end of the year.
And cooling centers are open for residents who need a safe place to avoid the heat. The City Department of Aging is running multiple sites, including the Harford Senior Center and the Sandtown Winchester Senior Center. Those cooling areas are open from Thursday from 9 in the morning until 7 at night.
And those who are homeless can cool off at Beans and Bread from 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock tomorrow and Thursday. And the Housing Authority will open a center for city residents at Cherry Hill Homes from 8:30 a.m. to 4 in the afternoon until this code red ends.
Kids today is taught that everything's supposed to be given to them, no matter if they break the law or not.
Well, a mother comes forward to talk about her 14-year-old daughter. She says her teen is committing crimes even though she's on home monitoring. It's a story you're seeing first on Fox. Mackenzie Frost joins us live right now with the exclusive reporting and how this mom isn't alone in her criticism of the juvenile justice system. Mackenzie, it's a powerful story.
Yeah, Guy, it really is. And this story underscores a lot of what we've been hearing from parents, police, and prosecutors. They all say that the current juvenile justice system and the laws aren't working and that something needs to change. Being a mom of a teenager can be tough. Wow. And they come all the time?
Every day.
But this Baltimore mom is facing an uphill battle with her daughter.
When she came home, she went out and stole the car that night and been getting arrested since on home detention.
Ray doesn't want to share her last name or face. She does want to share her story, and it's eye-opening.
She stole the vehicle. They called me so abruptly in the middle of the day. I let them know that she does this. She get in trouble every day, crime. Y'all keep letting her off the hook. She's going to come home and do the same thing.
An ankle monitor doesn't stop Ray's 14-year-old daughter from stealing cars, and keeping her at home under control is a losing battle.
But she's been arrested ever since. On home detention, they still won't do nothing. They won't violate her. And they're teenagers. They know what they're doing. They know right from wrong. They need to start locking these kids up. They need to change the laws.
It's that plea for change that's coming from more than just parents. Police.
Under the new laws of the state of Maryland, it has become more difficult for police to question young people about anything.
And prosecutors saying the same thing.
There's nothing the law will allow us to do to hold them accountable. And they're doing whatever they want.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day.
But some lawmakers, like one of the architects of the juvenile justice law, Senator Joe Carter, says police and prosecutors don't understand the laws and are missing what their role is to play.
The belief that laws need to be changed because nothing can be done is part of a false narrative that's been spread. So that's something that I don't know if it's a lack of education on law enforcement or not, but it's something that they need to know that they can avail themselves of.
You have to put accountability measures in place.
Zach Smith, a criminal justice policy expert, says sometimes kids don't want to take the help being offered, and it's up to lawmakers to change the parameters, especially as frustration from the community builds.
You're increasingly seeing members of the community, including parents and relatives who care about these juveniles, as well as victims' families, speaking out saying that there needs to be accountability until lawmakers get serious about combating this juvenile crime crisis in their communities. You're going to continue to see the same results.
Well, lawmakers, prosecutors, and leaders all call for more parental accountability.
We tried everything, literally.
This Baltimore mom says she's trying everything.
I worry about my daughter not living till her birthday.
And she says it's the laws that need to change.
I think that's so unfair because it's parents like me who fought and it's asking for help and nobody is doing anything. Stop blaming the parents when things go wrong, when it's clearly a failed system.
And the first step to possibly changing the system could come in just a few weeks when the House Judiciary Committee holds a hearing directly from some of the prosecutors around the state as well as from the Department of Juvenile Services directly. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Fox 45 News also sent questions to Governor Wes Moore's office last month asking about what changes need to be made to hold juveniles accountable. The governor's office sent us a statement saying the governor will continue working with legislators and community leaders to bring solutions that provide real measures of accountability.
And that brings us to our question of the day. What would you like the governor to do about juvenile crime before the next legislative session? Listen to prosecutors or make no changes to the current laws. So far, 96% of people who voted say listen to prosecutors. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Bottom line, the choice is yours of what you want. That is what we've been fighting for, and that is what we earned today.
Homeowners in Baltimore City claim a victory today.
This as the Maryland Public Service Commission says it's up to residents, not BGE, to decide where gas pressure regulators are installed at their homes.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live in studio. She's followed this controversial story on utility work for months. Amy?
Maxine Kai, the Public Service Commission now ordering BGE to revise its standards, saying while it prefers these gas pressure regulators to be installed outside of single-family homes, both inside and outside, it says, are safe options. The PSC regulates utility companies across Maryland, and the commission held a public hearing on these gas regulators just last month. BGE and homeowners were looking to this regulatory body to issue clear, definitive guidance on how to proceed. BGE has been adamant for several months that gas pressure regulators need to be installed outside of homes for safety reasons, saying that this utility work is part of its transition to a high-pressure gas system here in Baltimore City. But residents have been pushing back, upset about those torn-up streets and sidewalks, angry about holes being drilled into their homes, concerned about the safety of this gas equipment so close to the road. Today, residents, however, claiming a big win.
When you organize, when you come together, you can stand up to bullies. Now we have an order from the agency that regulates them that says interior and exterior regulators are safe, and the choice of where they will go is up to the homeowner.
Now, in a statement today, BGE said in part, quote, "The safety of our customers drives every decision we make, including our stance that placing gas regulators outdoors is safer because it reduces the risk of a catastrophic gas event." BGE continued saying, quote, "We are currently reviewing the Maryland Public Service Commission's order on the placement of gas regulators and will comply with it fully." The utility company thanked the PSC for providing oversight and said, quote, "We appreciate that customers still can select the safer outdoor option."
And Amy, now that the Public Service Commission has issued clear guidance on those gas regulators, what does that mean for that class action lawsuit against BGE?
Yes, some people might be asking if the PSC's ruling today would effectively dismiss that class action lawsuit. But right now, the lawsuit is still active. The plaintiffs said today they want to be sure BGE complies with this order today from the PSC. They're also planning to amend the lawsuit, saying they're now looking for a remedy for those homeowners who were forced to have external regulators installed against their will. In the studio, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. In Harford County now, a debate over term limits is brewing. One councilman is pushing for 8-year limits, while others say they want 12 years. Harford County Councilman Aaron Penman kicked off a petition drive for term limits Saturday, collecting signatures to get the measure on the ballot for voters in 2024.
Right now, what we have on the county charter is for the county executive has term limits. So he has 2 terms. He can take 1 term off and come back for 2 more terms. I want to apply that same logic to the county council.
But now other council members are introducing competing legislation.
I find it disappointing that legislation is being introduced, in opposition of the petition drive that I started to allow 3 terms.
On the agenda for tonight's meeting, Council Vice President Tony Giangiordano and Council members Riley and Guthrie are introducing their own term limit legislation. According to the bill, no person elected or appointed as a member of the county council shall be eligible for succession in the office of council member after serving in such office for 3 consecutive full 4-year terms.
Really kind of what that does is it really opens it up to be invested, be able to get benefits in retirement aspect as a council member. Currently, after 10 years, you become vested. And you're able to receive 1.5% per year that you have in service.
Penman says the proposed legislation, which doesn't directly mention pensions, seems self-serving. But Councilman Dion Guthrie, who's serving his 13th year, says it's not about pensions.
I don't think that has much to do about it.
He says he doesn't even really support term limits, but this bill is a compromise.
The bill that several of the members wanted to introduce to counter what's being done to be less than that. It could be confusing, but it does give the citizens a choice, and they can vote against both.
It's reminiscent to what happened in Baltimore City after voters overwhelmingly supported implementing term limits on Election Day 2022. Under the plan, the mayor, comptroller, city council president, and council members are now limited to 2 terms over a 12-year period. It spurred Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby to introduce a bill that would allow city leaders to be eligible for a pension after just 8 years of service rather than 12. Mayor Brandon Scott vetoed the bill, saying he couldn't, in good conscience, sign it. In Harford County, Penman is hoping things will go the same way.
If you can't figure it out 8 years, then you probably can't figure it out anyways.
Now, we did reach out to the other 2 council members who have introduced the bill and have not heard back. That meeting is tonight at 7:30.
Turning to a criminal profiler to find a killer. The latest on the steps Rachel Morin's family is taking a month after her death.
We're also following that search for a convicted killer on the loose in Pennsylvania. Next, hear from residents as police warn of the man who is said to be dangerous.
And the heat wave is shutting down classes and after-school activities in the area. When we'll see relief from record-breaking temperatures.
We're back now with the Fox 45 Quad Box. Philadelphia's police commissioner is resigning. Danielle Outlaw is leaving for a job with New York's Port Authority. Her departure comes after a bumpy 3 years as Philly's top cop.
It's sentencing day for the former leader of the Proud Boys. 39-year-old Enrique Tarrio has been convicted in the 2020 election attack at the U.S. Capitol. 3 other leaders of the group have been convicted and sentenced on sedition charges.
And the fight over a new voting map for Alabama continues. A federal judge has ordered a special master to redraw a new congressional map for the state. It comes after the Supreme Court ordered the state to create a second district where black voters come close to compromising a majority.
The manhunt continues in Pennsylvania for convicted killer Danilo Cavalcante escaped the Chester County prison Thursday. Police say he was caught on security footage yesterday on a nearby trail. 2 schools in the area were closed today as the search for him continues. Neighbors are reacting to the investigation.
We want it to be over. It's been a really scary couple of days here in the community.
I can't believe we haven't caught him yet with all the resources we have, all the canines, everything we have.
Well, officials are still trying to figure out how he was able to escape. Cavalcante was serving time for killing his ex-girlfriend in 2021. He's also wanted in a 2017 homicide case in Brazil.
Well, the severe heat we're facing is causing issues for schools across the Baltimore area. Baltimore and Harford County Public Schools canceled all outdoor school activities this afternoon. It comes as 11 city schools were forced to dismiss kids early because of the heat and lack of air conditioning. And yeah, it's hot.
It's hot. You have to be careful out there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, heat means business today. I mean,
Right.
up near 100 degrees thus far, making it to 98. That's a record high for the day. Yesterday was 99. The day before that, 98 degrees. Those were records. Looks like we're going to do it again tomorrow as well. So this is going to probably be a 4-day period of record-breaking heat. We may still string on another few days of heat wave before this is all said and done. Heat advisory continues till 8 p.m. for the entire area except the central and southern portion of the eastern shore. Right now, 98 here in Baltimore. And again, that is a record for the day. We were at 96 for our standing record. 99 at Frederick, 97 at Westminster, and 90s along the eastern shore. Find a good place to cool down. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. Make sure the pets are brought inside in the air conditioning. Of course, they're always wearing that fur coat, so it's even hotter for them. Take tabs on the elderly and maybe some close friends that may not have air conditioning. This is the time to do it. Heat, a huge, huge killer, and especially this time of year, you don't expect this type of heat necessarily. Feeling like 100 here in Baltimore, 100 at Cockeysville, so do not stay off guard with this type of heat. That, again, will continue a few more days. Relentless. I mean, really, early September, very unusual to see this breadth of heat wave. 98 degrees here in Baltimore for the high temperature today. 99 at Frederick, made it to 93 at Chestertown. The only place really getting some relief way out there toward Deep Creek Lake, where temperatures are only thus far up to 81. But that's it. Everybody else, again, under the heat advisories, that expires at 8 p.m. here in Baltimore. There is a batch of rain and some thunderstorms out towards St. Louis, down to Nashville. Not going to get here tomorrow. We still remain dry and super hot. Any rain, any showers remaining off the coast and away. And in fact, down to the south and southwest of us, there is some tropical activity that we're watching. Not going to have any impacts on us in the near term, but could become a formidable hurricane in the Atlantic over the next several days. So we'll talk about that in a second. 98 right now, feels like 100. The traffic crawling by on 695. There's tropical depression number 13. Doesn't look like much now, but over the next several days, that thing could become a Category 4 hurricane. And notice what happens with this. Moves somewhere in the vicinity of the Bahama Islands and then could make a turn northbound. We'll have to see where that eventually goes. So you have some time to watch that. But overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, still going to be steamy and warm. Temperatures in the 70s to start tomorrow. And look, again, back well into the 90s to near 100 again for tomorrow afternoon. That could be another record tomorrow, 95 on Thursday. Some spot storms could be strong, finally falling out of the heat wave by this weekend.
Could a serial killer be responsible for Rachel Morin's death? The steps her loved ones are now taking to catch her killer.
A new report outlines corruption in Ukraine as lawmakers prepare to return to Washington, where increased aid for the country will no doubt come up. I'm Christine Frizzell with the details straight ahead.
All right, we're back now with live pictures of the U.S. Capitol in D.C., where Congress has returned to session. And this is what we're tracking. Lawmakers will consider a short-term funding measure to prevent a government shutdown. They'll also take up an emergency funding request for Ukraine and federal disaster recovery. The Republican-led investigation into Hunter Biden's business dealings will also continue. This session comes after a couple of health scares. On your left is House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Last week, the Republican lawmaker revealed he's been treated for multiple melanoma. He's going to continue working while being treated. And on your right is Senator Mitch McConnell. The 81-year-old froze up again last week during a press conference, seemingly unable to respond. Today, the U.S. Capitol physician said the 81-year-old has no evidence of stroke or seizure disorder. McConnell has given no indication that he's considering retirement. And there's a debate unfolding right now about American aid to Ukraine. For years, levels of corruption in Ukraine were higher than anywhere else in Europe except Russia. Christine Frizzell reports.
More than 18 months into a war they never asked for, Ukraine now forced to react to factors emerging off the battlefield. Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov recently fired by Ukrainian President Zelensky in the wake of multiple scandals involving his Ministry of Defense, with accusations of price gouging and bribery, though Reznikov himself was not implicated. Now a report in the New York Times outlining the enduring challenge of corruption in Ukraine, and that government officials acknowledge that some military contracts failed to produce weaponry or ammunition, and that some of the money has vanished. Details expected to add fuel to a slow-burning fire of criticism from some in Congress about aid amount and accountability.
We've seen $113 billion, and yet the Defense Department came back in the last couple of months and said there's $6 billion that we feel like we've made an accounting error over.
Stop sending our bullets to the Ukrainians. We need them right here at home.
President Joe Biden already requesting an additional $40 billion to support Ukraine, as leaders admit slow progress, but progress nonetheless.
We are moving forward. We liberated dozens of square kilometers of our land through minefields with no air coverage.
Rooting out corruption was central to Volodymyr Zelensky's candidacy. Russia, meanwhile, now set to meet with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un for the first time in 4 years. The topic believed to be a potential arms deal.
We also know that the Russians and Chinese have invited North Korea to join a trilateral naval exercise coming up.
This deepening relationship comes alongside a new alarming warning. Retired Russian General Alexander Vladimirov saying in an interview he believes the, quote, inevitable conclusion of the war will involve the use of nuclear weapons. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
We have some breaking news right now. The Baltimore County Fire Department has entered into a consent decree with the U.S. Department of Justice. The county executive sent out that announcement just minutes ago. The consent decree is the result of charges saying the department violated the rights of its employees by subjecting 11 female employees to a hostile work environment. The complaint was filed in June 2017. Under the terms of the consent decree, the department will create new DOJ-approved policies and compliant investigation process, among other things. The county will also pay $275,000 to those 11 employees. You can find more on the consent decree on our website right now at foxbaltimore.com. Despite limited funding, a Washington County school is still one of the best in the state. Project Baltimore takes a closer look at why it's outperforming schools right here in Baltimore. And will the trail go cold? The growing concern surrounding the Rachel Morin murder investigation as her family takes a new approach to catch her killer.
Fox 45 is on weather alert right now as the Baltimore area faces a severe heat wave. This is a look at conditions across Baltimore, including a live look at Camden Yards downtown and also Towson. Temperatures are hovering at 100 degrees for the third day. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers says the latest right now on how long this heat could stick around. Jonathan?
Yeah, you know, it makes it particularly dangerous that this is now occurring around and after Labor Day because folks don't necessarily expect this type of heat this time of year. And also a lot of the pools are closing, so there are lesser options to stay cool. But if you can find a pool that's still open or an air-conditioned space or even just, get a fan on you and drink lots of water, that's going to be the way to go. Heat advisory in effect until 8 p.m. this evening for the entire area except the middle and lower portion of the eastern shore. Going to persist with real field temperatures as high as about 105 degrees. Right now, 98 here in Baltimore. That breaks a record for the day. From 96 is where we were standing at our old record. And then actually yesterday and the day before also broke records too. So this is day 3 of record-breaking heat. 97 at Westminster, 99 at Frederick, and temperatures in the 90s along the eastern shore. Feels like 100. I guess the humidity is not as bad as it could be. I guess in July, August, it might be a little worse, but still does feel like 100. Feels like 102 at Cockeysville and 106 at Elkton. And temperatures this evening, at least the Future Scan heat index temperatures, they only fall very slowly down into the 90s, still at 8:15, 90 degrees at Annapolis through about 8:15. And even overnight doesn't feel like much below 80 before we start going up again. Tomorrow could feel as hot as nearly 100 degrees by early afternoon and feeling like 100 to wrap up the day. I'm going to let you know how long this lasts and when storms could cool us down in my Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. Put the power in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone. Use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms to your street. Go to your app store and search WBFF to get started.
Somebody here may have an inkling that maybe this is the suspect, but they're in disbelief that their friend or coworker or family member could do something like this.
I developed for the family a 5-point bullet point chart that they can disseminate into the community.
It has been 1 month since Rachel Morin was murdered in Harford County. The 37-year-old's body was found along the Ma and Pa Trail in Bel Air. DNA found at the scene matched a suspect in an assault that happened across the country in L.A. This is security footage of the suspect leaving the scene of that crime. Despite having a possible killer on camera, police have not been able to identify him. And Morin's family is growing more desperate for answers. Hoping to generate new leads in the case, they've enlisted the help of a criminal profiler. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor explains. Rebecca?
Yeah, Maxine, that's right. The family has asked criminal profiler Pat Brown to write up a description of the alleged killer, a measure that they're hoping will trigger the memory of someone who knows the killer and have them come forward. Take a look at this. That profile has now been printed onto thousands of these flyers that the family plans to distribute throughout the community today. They've requested it be made due to the poor quality of the surveillance video that was just shared. In the profile, Brown describes the killer as a psychopath who likely has ties to the Bel Air community. In addition to that, she and the sheriff's office are now sounding the alarm that the man responsible could be a serial killer.
And this is why it's so important for the community to identify this man, because he will commit the crime again.
We only need one tip, and we can save other lives, and we can bring justice to Rachel, her family, and her children.
And the family is also requesting the community's help getting these flyers out across the area. If you would like to help, you can come here. They're going to meet here at the Ma and Pa Trail's William Street entrance around 5:30 this evening.
And Rebecca, the sheriff's office has also provided you with an update in their investigation. What have you learned?
Well, we already know from the sheriff's office that the suspect allegedly committed another crime in California. But today, the sheriff's office tells me that they are following leads in Chicago. I'll have more on that at my full story coming up tonight at 5. But for now, reporting live in Harford County, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. Well, there is now a $10,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of Morin's killer. For our full coverage on her death and the ongoing investigation, you can head to foxbaltimore.com.
Making headlines, a 19-year-old and 2 juveniles are facing charges for multiple shootings in Aberdeen. According to police, 19-year-old Jameer Jones and a 17-year-old were responsible for multiple gang-related shootings. In one of the incidents, the pair is accused of opening fire on a family in front of their home, hitting the family's car, the front house or the front hose, and also firing a bullet into a room where a baby and mother were resting. The 17-year-old is being charged as an adult. A 15-year-old connected to the case was also arrested, but is not accused of actually shooting at anyone. It's the poorest school in Washington County, Maryland, yet it is on par with some of the best schools in the state.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, there's a secret to success at Salem Avenue Elementary.
After 11 years, it's become a tradition in this Hagerstown community.
It's a great way to build community and just be out in force here. I took two. That's awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Here we go. Avon Road. All right. He really was a cutie patootie.
1 week before the start of school, equipped with maps and student lists.
Hannah's in your homeroom, right? Yep. Okay. Like the one we're heading to next, I had his sister in 3rd grade, so she's gonna be a 5th grader this year.
Teachers from Salem Avenue Elementary hit the streets for what's known as the Blitz.
Hey! Hi, Maynard. How are you? Is Kimberly back there too? Hi, Kimberly.
Molly Adams and Stacy Yost teach 3rd grade at Salem Avenue. Together, they have 30 students on their list. That's 30 homes to visit.
All 4 of these awesome teachers, we're all going to get to see you and work with you during the day. It's so important to build those relationships because kids can't access the learning if they don't feel important and valued.
For 3 hours, they knock on doors, introduce themselves.
We're these teachers. We just came to say hey.
Meet their students and their families.
Nice to see you. I'm Mrs. Adams. How are you?
Principal Thomas Garner created the Blitz in 2012. Yep. He wanted teachers to see firsthand how their students live and the challenges they face. Because at Salem Avenue Elementary, every student faces challenges. According to federal data, 100% of the students live in poverty.
We got great kids here, we got great parents here, but really, teachers, normally these walls protect them from the outside world.
There's 923, so yeah, it's right over there. Oh,
Garner says teachers who want to work at Salem Avenue have to understand where their students come from.
They're going to have bad days just like everyone else. They may not have power on a day. They may not have great weather when they're walking a mile to school. These are things that they have to understand.
Hagerstown is a blue-collar town of about 43,000 people with a higher poverty rate than Baltimore City. And many of the families who live here are dealing with addiction. The city sits at the intersection of Interstates 70 and 81, known as the Heroin Highway.
Javar, welcome to 3rd grade. And
the Blitz gives teachers insight into their students' lives. Knowing what they're coping with at home helps teachers better teach.
I think it has made them more humanistic. I think it's also really, in some weird ways, really helped them push their expectations higher. You know, I'm a firm believer that you can't feel sorry for anyone. Feeling sorry for someone never has made them stronger.
There are roughly 1,400 public schools in Maryland. 98 have 100% poverty, meaning they receive extra federal funding to help low-income students. At Salem Avenue, every student is eligible for free breakfast and lunch, and any extra money goes towards books. The school has placed a strong emphasis on literacy, teaching children to love reading, and it's working. According to the most recent state test scores, 45.4% of students at Salem Avenue are proficient in English, a full point higher than the Maryland average. And in a state where the poorest areas tend to have the lowest rated schools, Salem is proving that doesn't need to be the case. This is the only school with 100% poverty to earn 4 out of 5 stars on the Maryland Report Card, which measures overall performance based on factors including attendance, test scores, and curriculum. Nearly all the other schools in Maryland with 100% poverty earn 1 or 2 stars.
I'm Mrs. Adams.
And I'm Mrs. Yost.
Yes!
Mrs. Yost! Yes! My friend Lily loved you as a third grader.
Oh, Lily.
So sweet.
For Adams and Yost, the Blitz
I heard really great things about her.
is about meeting kids where they are.
I get you in the afternoon for reading and English and writing. Do you like to read? Yeah.
Making a connection before they ever enter the classroom.
You don't remember a specific lesson usually. You don't remember a specific test, unless it was really tragic. But you do remember your teachers, you remember your friends, you remember an experience that you had.
It validates what I do every day, what we do every day, because some days are harder than others.
We're so glad we got to see you. Thanks for hollering so we can come over, okay?
We'll be looking for you, okay?
All right, bud.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
I'm Kayla Gaskins. Coming up, the latest uptick in cases of COVID-19 reigniting the debate over the effectiveness of masks.
The First Lady has COVID. Joe Biden tested positive for the virus last night. The president has not tested positive. It comes as some experts are on edge about another potential bump in cases. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
Mask mandates possibly coming back as COVID cases tick upwards in some communities.
And if you feel you need to mask up, do so to stay healthy, guys.
The return of masks reigniting one of the most contentious debates of the COVID-19 pandemic. Do masks actually make a difference in slowing the spread?
If things get worse, it may be hard to get people to revert to an abundance of caution.
CNN questioning Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of masking's biggest proponents, on their effectiveness in light of studies showing they make no difference.
When you took at the broad population level, like the Cochrane study, the data are less firm with regard to the effect on the overall pandemic. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about an individual's effect on their own safety. That's a bit different than the broad population level.
Senator Rand Paul slamming the comments, pointing out Fauci admits that masks don't work for the public at large, but still absurdly claims masks work on an individual basis. More subterfuge. Amid the intense public backlash of recent mandates, Morris Brown College in Atlanta ending their mask requirements this past Sunday. Last Friday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a law banning local governments in his state from requiring COVID-19 related masks. Donald Trump incorporating the mask debate into his campaign to return to the White House.
When I'm back in the White House, I will use every available authority to cut federal funding to any school, college, airline, or public transportation system that imposes a mask mandate.
A CDC advisory meeting set for September 12th should give better insight into the government's COVID-19 recommendations heading into the fall. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
The world likely just had its hottest summer on record. According to the Copernicus Climate Change Service, the global average surface temperature for June through August was more than 1 degree above the average from 1991 to 2020. Now, that might not sound like a big increase, but climate experts say a shift like this can have an impact on droughts, ice caps melting, and severe weather patterns across the world. Maryland is feeling the heat right now. This is a live look at Ocean City. Down the ocean, they're facing highs in the mid-90s. The heat advisories stretch across the state. Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here right now with the latest on this weather alert. Jonathan?
Yeah, and you know, Kai, a lot of times places like Ocean City, they don't get the extreme heat, but even they made it to the mid-90s today. They've dropped into the 80s with a sea breeze lately, but heat advisory continues for us here in Baltimore, up and down, 95, 97. This is for the rest of today. I think that they'll be extending this for tomorrow during the day as well. 98 here in Baltimore right now, 95 at Cockeysville. Even before the official high temperature numbers come in the next about half hour to hour's time, that 98, that's a record for the day. 96, a standing record. 97 right now at Westminster, 99 at Frederick, 100 is a real field temperature here in Baltimore. So it actually only feels a couple degrees warmer than it actually is. But the problem is the temperatures are just so high. It feels like 104 at Cockeysville, 104 at Elkton, 102 at Columbia and Laurel. And really should feel or should be more like the low 80s typically this time of year. It looks like we had a little outage on our Toyota Asian Harbor Skycams. A little bit of a black shot behind me here. But nonetheless, you get the numbers. 98 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. Winds out of the northwest at 8, feeling like 100 degrees right now. HG radar, no cooling in sight until you get to Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis. Plenty of thunderstorms here, but it's going to take a couple of days until that gets here. And until then, still record heat likely into the day tomorrow. There's your thunderstorms out to the west, and then a nice cold front behind all that. That's going to give us a cool down, at least back to about average by the end of the week, especially into this weekend. But as that happens, a level 1 to 5 risk of severe weather during the day on Thursday, especially Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, maybe some gusty storms rolling through by then. But tomorrow's just going to be sunny and hot. Now out in the tropics, got another tropical system. This is tropical depression number 13. Look at this. Could be a category 4 hurricane as we get into this upcoming weekend. So this is going to be something to watch closely. All the computer models going just north of the Antilles. And we really want to see this hook a little bit more to the north and eventually northeast, but we'll see what happens with it. It's something that the East Coast will have to keep eyes on as we head into the next several days. So the future scan says overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, temperatures gradually falling through the 80s into the 70s. When you wake up tomorrow, still sweaty, right around 75 to 80. And then by tomorrow midday and afternoon, big bottle of water going to do you good. And if a pool's still open around you, you're going to want to be there too. Going to be in the mid to upper 90s, feeling like 100 to 105. Once again, average high temperature this time of year, 84. We're going to blow that away. Spotty storms again for Thursday. That's for Friday and Saturday too. Hopefully that'll finally take the edge off temperatures. Mid to upper 80s if you're headed out to the State Fair this weekend, and actually near normal into next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock, the back and forth over BGE's external gas regulators continues. The most recent win for homeowners. Investigating the right to repair, the push to give drivers more options when it comes to caring for their cars. When your check engine light comes on, you might not know what's wrong, but your automaker does, and it doesn't have to share that information with you. Well, there's a bill in Congress that'll change that. It's known as the right to repair. Tom Rogers explains.
Service technicians say just because you're in the driver's seat, it doesn't give you total control if there's a problem with your ride.
So that's your car, but you don't get to make decisions on how it's taken care of, who takes care of it. Even if you want to do your own service, all of a sudden, really, it's not your car anymore.
If your car breaks down, automakers direct you to the dealership. That may not always be the best option.
They could let it sit out there however long they want, and you have no options to get it repaired quicker somewhere else.
Right to Repair is supported by organizations like Consumer Reports. It gives customers information about their vehicle. That way, consumers have a choice on where to go for repairs. Leaders with the Auto Care Association say having options saves you money.
Through our research and through surveys that we have conducted, the cost of repair on average is 36% less in the independent aftermarket. In other words, the shop on the corner of Elm and Main, rather than the dealership.
The National Automobile Dealers Association, or NADA, opposes the right to repair. In a statement on its website, it reads, aftermarket companies like repair shops gain access to automakers' proprietary information, which it says can create new privacy, vehicle security, and safety risks.
The security issue is kind of red herring. Repair shops just need the data that's required to fix your vehicle. They're not actually rewriting the car's software. What's really dangerous is people driving around with unrepaired cars because they can't afford to take them to the manufacturer.
NADA says necessary information to repair vehicles is already available, but service techs tell Consumer Reports it's not enough and is confusing.
When I'm working on a domestic, an Asian, a European, it's all over the board with the equipment that I need, the websites and subscriptions I have to subscribe to in order to get those cars repaired.
He says it's a speed bump. Now, the right to repair issue goes beyond cars. You can run into that same problem when trying to fix your electronics. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
We continue under weather alert for the high heat, and that's probably going to be going through this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow, 97 at 5 p.m. If you're going to be doing some outdoor exercise, well, we usually say do it during the evening, but I'd say if you can delay it to maybe the end of the week, the weekend could be better for you. Temperature's only going to be at 94 by 7 p.m., really just not falling very far. And by tomorrow, we're still oppressive and dangerously hot. I'm going to let you know how long this lasts coming up in a couple of minutes.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, a Baltimore mother speaks out about juvenile crime and her daughter's role in it. Her calls for change. The search continues for the person who murdered a Harford County woman on a popular walking trail. The latest in the case. A major victory for Baltimore City residents when it comes to BGE's external gas regulators. The state commission giving residents more say.
And addressing the juvenile crime crisis, we take the concerns of a mother to lawmakers, why she says the state is not doing enough to help young people break away from the cycle of crime and violence.
I want him in prison, back in prison and out of our township.
Day 6 of the search for an escaped murderer, where officials say the convict was last seen.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Fox 45 News is on weather alert today. You're looking at live pictures outside as we brace for more record-breaking temperatures across the state. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Maxine Stryker.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Thousands across the state are seeing the impacts from the extreme heat, from schools closing early in Baltimore to even extracurricular activities being canceled.
Fox 45 News is keeping you up to date with all of the current conditions and when we'll finally see a cool down.
Let's go right to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers for the latest. Jonathan.
And Maxine and Kai, patience is going to pay with this one. I think we're going to see a gradual cool down eventually, maybe about 24 to 48 hours. But till then, more record heat is going to be a potential, and that continues this afternoon with a heat advisory into this evening through 8 p.m. So at least through about then, you may want to delay any of those outdoor activities. Even overnight tonight, it's still going to be pretty stifling. The heat advisory in effect for the real field temperatures up to 105 degrees. Right now, 98 in Baltimore. This is now day 3 of record-breaking heat. Feeling like 102 here in Baltimore and up 83 at Cockeysville, not much better. Hour-by-hour forecast into this evening, 96 the temperature by 6 p.m., 90 at 9 still, and then back down into the 70s. But that's the lowest we're going to get by 3 and 6 a.m. when you're waking up tomorrow morning. Should be at 84 this time of year. I'm going to let you know how long this record-breaking heat continues for us here in Maryland. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
As we mentioned, the weather is having an impact on Baltimore students. Kids at 11 city schools were sent home early today because the city does not have air conditioning installed in their classrooms. With the heat wave, the classes are literally too hot for students to sit in. The school system had plans in place to install air conditioning at the schools before the year started, but now they say those plans won't be completed until the end of the year.
The Baltimore City Health Department is offering some tips on how to stay cool in this heat. That includes drinking lots of water, avoiding caffeine and alcohol, and reducing outside activities.
You can put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Just download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone and use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms right down to your street. Just go to your app store and search for WBFF to get started.
Breaking tonight, a city police officer fires her weapon at a suspect who hit her with a car trying to escape. According to Baltimore police, officers were investigating a potential shoplifting incident at a 7-Eleven, we understand, on Wilkins Avenue.
The suspect got in a vehicle and drove away, injuring the officer's hand. That's when police say officers started firing. The officer who was hit and a second officer experiencing chest pains were taken to the hospital. The acting commissioner says the search for the suspect is underway.
And take a look at this picture we're showing you. The man on the left is the suspect police are looking for. They say he got away in a black SUV. That's on the right side of your screen. Anyone with information on who the suspect is should contact police.
We're also following some breaking news out of Baltimore County. The fire department has entered into a consent decree with the U.S. Department of Justice. The county executive sent out that announcement in just the past hour. The consent decree is the result of charges saying the department violated the rights of its employees by subjecting 11 female employees to a hostile work environment. The complaint was filed in June 2017. Under the terms of the consent decree, the department will create new DOJ-approved policies and compliant investigation process, among other things. The county will also pay $275,000 to those 11 employees. Now, you can find more information on the consent decree right now on our website at foxbaltimore.com.
Fox 45 News is following 3 big stories for you at 5 o'clock. New efforts to find the man who murdered a Harford County mother on a popular walking trail. The push for justice from her family.
A Baltimore mother speaking out on her daughter's role in the juvenile crime crisis. The calls now to the General Assembly.
But first, a major win for homeowners in Baltimore City as the Maryland Public Service Commission says it's up to residents, not BGE, to decide where gas meters are installed.
We have live team coverage of our top stories tonight, starting with Amy Simpson, and she's been following this controversial utility work for several months now. Amy?
Maxine Kai, the Public Service Commission now ordering BGE to revise its standards, saying while it prefers these gas pressure regulators to be installed outside of single-family homes, both inside and outside are safe. Today, a decision months in the making.
This morning, we scored a major victory.
The Maryland Public Service Commission, which regulates utility companies statewide.
We're here because something has gone terribly awry with your program.
Weighing in on BGE's gas pressure regulators, saying residents get to decide for themselves, inside or out.
Bottom line, the choice is yours of what you want. That is what we've been fighting for, and that is what we earned today.
BGE adamant for several months that gas pressure regulators need to be installed outside of homes for safety reasons. The utility work part of its project to transition to a high-pressure gas system in Baltimore City. But residents started pushing back, upset about torn-up streets and sidewalks, angry about holes being drilled into their homes, concerned about the safety of this gas equipment so close to the road, feeling like their voices were falling on deaf ears. In June, our cameras were rolling as 3 women were arrested for protesting the utility work in historic Federal Hill, alleging the company was strong-arming residents into the construction, faced with the option to get an outside regulator or have gas service shut off altogether. Their charges have since been dropped. The Public Service Commission today also ruling that declining an exterior regulator is not a valid reason to shut off or threaten to shut off service.
When you organize, when you come together, you can stand up to bullies.
But even with the definitive ruling from the Public Service Commission, the class action lawsuit against BGE not being dropped by several hundred Baltimoreans.
We're not done.
Homeowners say they're planning to amend the suit, now looking for a remedy for the homes forced to have external regulators against their will, and wanting to be sure BGE complies with today's order from the Public Service Commission.
We just want to make sure they actually do it. And until we see in writing that BGE has adopted the spirit and substance of what the commission has ordered them to do, we're not in a position to just trust them that they will do the right thing.
Now, in a statement today, BGE said in part, quote, "The safety of our customers drives every decision we make, including our stance that placing gas regulators outdoors is safer because it reduces the risk of a catastrophic gas event." BGE continued saying, quote, "We are currently reviewing the Maryland Public Service Commission's order on the placement of gas regulators and will comply with it fully." The utility company thanked the PSC for providing oversight and said, quote, "We appreciate that customers still can select the safer outdoor option." It is important to note that today's ruling from the PSC applies to single-family homes. Maryland state law requires those gas pressure regulators to be installed outside of buildings with 6 or more units. In the studio, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Kids today is taught that everything's supposed to be given to them, no matter if they break the law or not.
First on Fox, a mother is coming forward about her 14-year-old daughter, who she says continues to commit crimes despite being on home monitoring.
Mackenzie Frost joins us live right now with the exclusive reporting and how this mother isn't alone with her concerns about the juvenile justice system. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai and Maxine, this story really has captured the attention of many people, and this mother who is speaking with us is facing some pushback, saying that parents need to parent their children and accountability starts at home. We often hear leaders say very similar things. Mayor Brandon Scott and State's Attorney Ivan Bates say parents need to parent their children, but this mom, who we're only using her first name and not showing her face on camera, says that she has tried everything she can do, but she says her daughter still continues to commit crime, and she says it's not a parents' fault when the system is the problem.
I think that's so unfair because it's parents like me who fought and it's asking for help and nobody is doing anything. Stop blaming the parents when things go wrong, when it's clearly a failed system.
And we have been talking about this. We know that the juvenile justice system is under the microscope. We've heard from police, prosecutors, and now parents who are all saying that the current laws are making it more difficult to hold young people accountable for their actions. Earlier today, I spoke with a criminal justice policy expert who says really the solution to this is simple, but he says it's up to lawmakers to make the change.
You're increasingly seeing members of the community, including parents and relatives who care, as well as victims' families, speaking out saying that there needs to be accountability. And until lawmakers get serious about combating this juvenile crime crisis in their communities, you're going to continue to see the same results.
And so, Mackenzie, what are you hearing from lawmakers? Does it seem Maryland lawmakers are open to making any changes?
Well, it really depends on who you talk to, right, Kyle? We know that we've heard from State Delegate Lou Clippinger, a Democrat from Baltimore City. He also chairs the House Judiciary Committee, and he says that he really wants to take a deeper dive into the Department of Juvenile Services. He believes that the DJS system isn't adequately set up to handle the number of juveniles who are coming in with handgun possessions. He says that's really an area that he wants to take a look at. But we also know from State Senator Jill Carter, another Democrat from Baltimore City, she says the current laws are on the books for a reason. She believes that it's the prosecutors and the police who don't fully understand their full abilities and their role, and she says that they can do more to help these young offenders. Either way, it's really teeing up a legislative session that will be no doubt filled with debate about the juvenile justice system, and next week that House Judiciary Committee will hear from prosecutors and DJS potentially getting the ball rolling for change in January. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, that brings us to our question of the day. What would you like the governor to do about juvenile crime before the next legislative session? Listen to prosecutors or make no changes to current laws. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
I think everybody, myself included, in the family had hoped that somebody would be apprehended by now.
When they do get attacked while they're walking or jogging on a biking trail or a walking trail, I would say 100% of the time it's a serial killer.
Tonight, the investigation into the mysterious murder of Rachel Morin reaches its 1-month mark.
The prolonged search for a suspect leaving the community on edge, and the Morin family turning to a criminal profiler now for help.
As Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, that expert and authorities now say the suspect could be a serial killer. Rebecca?
That's right. The family of Rachel Morin has now requested that a criminal profiler pen a description of Rachel Morin's killer. They're hoping that it's a measure that will trigger someone who knows this person to come forward. This is the Harford County Sheriff's Office confirms that their investigation has recently spanned beyond state lines.
1 month ago today, a deadly discovery made along the Monpod Trail, shaking Bel Air's quiet, tight-knit community.
This is horrific, it's shocking.
It's scary.
I think everybody's waiting answers.
And devastating the family of Rachel Morin, whose search for answers becomes more dire each day.
We don't have any clue where he could be.
The Harford County Sheriff's Office telling Fox 45 they're now looking for leads in Chicago, but declined to explain why.
This DNA evidence has come back as a match.
This after investigators already revealing DNA from Rachel's crime scene, a match for an unsolved home invasion and assault taking place in Los Angeles, California earlier this year. However, the only images released of the suspect, surveillance video of his back turned and face covered.
The picture is not that great.
In lieu of a visual depiction, the father of Rachel's oldest child, Matthew McMahon, requesting a written description from professional criminal profiler Pat Brown.
So when they look at that profile, they can start identifying it with that person that much more.
I feel very strongly about this. A bullet point profile should go out to the public.
With 30 years of experience under her belt, Brown penning a list of the perpetrator's presumed characteristics, describing him as a psychopath who likely has ties to the area.
Bel Air is 40 miles north of Baltimore. You don't just roll in there on a bus for no reason. He has to know somebody that he came to stay with in Bel Air.
Both Brown and the sheriff also sounding the alarm the man responsible could be a serial killer.
And this is why it's so important for the community to identify this man, because he will commit the crime again.
Brown's profile now printed onto this flyer, which the Morin family plans to place around town, hoping it generates new leads.
To please carefully examine the profile, read everything.
From anyone who can keep this case from going cold.
We only need one tip, and we can save other lives, and we can bring justice to Rachel, her family, and her children.
Now, the family is also requesting the community's help distributing those flyers out across the area. If anyone would like to lend a helping hand, there is still time. They plan to meet here at 5:30 at the Ma and Pa Trails Williams Street entrance. It's about 15 minutes from now. Reporting live in Harford County, Rebecca Breyer, Fox 45 News.
We want it to be over. It's been a really scary couple of days here in the community.
Coming up after the break, residents in Pennsylvania on edge as the search continues for an escaped killer. The latest developments from law enforcement.
A back and forth between Baltimore City and the county. Why city agencies argue county residents should be more responsible for upkeep.
Breaking news minutes ago, Baltimore police confirming they have made an arrest after an officer-involved shooting earlier today. 33-year-old Alex Husson of Ellicott City, seen in surveillance video, is now under arrest. Detectives say he hit two BPD officers with a vehicle while trying to get away after a potential shoplifting incident at a 7-Eleven on Wilkins Avenue. Two officers were taken to the hospital, one for a hand injury, the other for chest pain. Husson was not hurt in the incident. Happening right now, the manhunt in Pennsylvania continues for escaped convicted killer Danilo Cavalcante. Today, officials confirmed that he was spotted on trail camera footage walking around Longwood Gardens last night. Police say they conducted an hours-long search of the area but were unsuccessful in capturing the fugitive as the search now extends into its 6th day. Officials releasing new videos showing Cavalcante with a backpack, slingback bag, and clothing, which officials say he has obtained since the last sighting. Two schools in the area have been closed.
It's kind of scary when you got kids in a house and you worry about this guy being out there every single day since Thursday. There's so many helicopters, so many cops, K-9, SWAT, everything. And I don't understand he's been able to elude the police this long. It's crazy. And to be in this same area.
The 34-year-old broke out of the Chester County prison 6 days ago. He was convicted of first-degree murder for fatally stabbing his ex-girlfriend.
And the pretty ridiculous heat continues today. This is day 3 now of 95 to 100 and day 3 of record-breaking heat. Heat advisory continues up and down the 95 and 97 corridors, except for the lower and middle portion of the eastern shore. Now, if this were to be happening, say, even in, July, August, we'd still say it's very hot. But now we're past Labor Day, and it's 98 here in Baltimore. We've been there for the past couple of hours. 96 at Cockeysville. Your only relief, yeah, it's right near the water. Annapolis, you're at 88, but 97 currently. Westminster, double nines. Over at Frederick, feels like 102 here in Baltimore. I guess a saving grace about this happening later in the season is a little bit less humidity than we typically have during the peak of the summertime. So although we have the heat advisory for the real field temperature up to 105, it does feel like still dangerous or nearly dangerous, but it feels like 102 instead of the, say, 105 to 110. But Cockeysville, you're sitting at 106. Feels like 104 at Chestertown. It is going to stay hot and unseasonably humid as well for tomorrow. So we've got another potential record day coming as we work into Wednesday. 98 for the high today in Baltimore, 97 at Westminster, 99 at Frederick, 91 Cambridge, even down the eastern shore. Look at you, Ocean City, low to mid 90s. The one spot that got out of this, 81 out in Oakland, way up at elevation right around Deep Creek Lake. Mile 1 Townsend, 98 right now. Winds out of the northwest at 5. That's a little bit of a helper. If we had a south or southwest wind, boy, that'd be bringing in the humidity big time. But that northwesterly wind kind of cuts the humidity a bit. So we're at 35% humidity, which feels like 102. Hazy sunshine on that Mile 1 Townsend cam in the background. And if you still have the backyard pool open, that is the way to go this evening. HG radar, showers and thunderstorms out around Indianapolis, Nashville, and Lexington, Kentucky. The record heat continues here. Finally, the showers and thunderstorms, I think at least maybe a spot shower storm, we'll say, moving in later on Thursday, and then cooler air to follow gradually as we head through the weekend. Now, as some of those storms move in, now this is not tomorrow, this is going to be on Thursday. There is a 1 in 5 marginal risk of severe weather, so late in the day there could potentially be some gusty storms around. Maybe some of those lasting into Friday as well. Now, out in the tropics, yes, we are heading towards that peak of tropical season around September 10th or so. So we got another one out here. This is now Lee, just upgraded off a tropical depression, which formed this morning. That could become a Category 4 hurricane over the western portion of the Atlantic, north of the Bahamas and south of Bermuda into this weekend and early next week. And we'll just have to see. Look at those computer models making that arc. Maybe somewhere towards near the East Coast. Too far out to know, but it is something that we will watch. Now, the future scan says overnight into early tomorrow morning, temperatures barely budge out of the 80s, back down into the mid-70s. Another sweaty hot day for tomorrow. High temperatures likely reaching to near the 100-degree mark, feeling like low to mid 100s tomorrow afternoon. So more water, more air conditioning. Wednesday high 99. We do it again. 95 on Thursday. Some spot storms late. Maybe some stronger PM storms as well on Friday. Few storms Saturday if you're headed to the State Fair, but more average temperatures in the mid-80s.
Still ahead after the break, the summer of scamming, what you need to be on the lookout for to avoid losing thousands. Plus, a back and forth over term limits in Harford County, the countermeasure being introduced and why some say it's self-serving. Topping your consumer news tonight, summer has come to an unofficial end with Labor Day, but the IRS says it's been a hot one for scammers. Not only have they seen new kinds of theft, they're also seeing a new low-tech scam that comes straight to your home. Steve Wolford with our St. Clair sister station takes a closer look at what to watch out for and how to spot it.
I probably get 2 or 3 a day, easily.
Those never-ending emails and text messages from scammers hoping that just maybe you'll take the bait and think there's a tax write-off you didn't know about or you're entitled to some money from a refund you missed. And it's been a summer full of new angles.
Well, scam-wise, there's a whole spate of them this summer. Many of them, the email, which is phishing or text or smishing, and various IRS lures, if you will, to get people to provide personal or sensitive information.
According to Rafael Tulino with the IRS, this summer's Dirty Dozen list includes everything from fake charities reaching out to you to tax professionals themselves getting duped into a cybersecurity breach. But savvy taxpayers know the real IRS will never reach out to you by mail or text.
If I get an email or something and I don't recognize it, don't open it. It's that simple.
Now, what about the IRS? If you got an email from the IRS?
Nope, ain't gonna work on this guy.
I know the IRS isn't emailing me, right? Like if they're going to send me something, it's going to come on their letterhead in the regular mail.
That's correct, but it's also a new way scammers are hoping to fool you.
A random mailer coming from a delivery service in a cardboard envelope in your box is a little bit unique and not something we've seen as scams go.
With correspondence that requests a clear photo of your driver's license so you can get a refund and unclaimed property. But it's easily spotted because of typos and bad grammar, so it's important to know what to do.
Honestly, if I get something like that, I'm probably going to call somebody, right? Like I've called the IRS before. I know it means sitting on hold for a while, but if anything even looks sketchy about it.
Well, experts say the IRS will never send you an email or text, and it will never send mail about tax refunds just out of the blue. If you have any questions, don't respond and call the IRS. You can also learn more about tax scams right on their website. New efforts to enforce term limits in Harford County. Next, the back and forth over how long the term should last. Plus, 2 months since Baltimore's largest mass shooting, we analyze 3 levels of failure and why critics argue city agencies need to do more.
Fox 45 News is on weather alert as we continue to see dangerous temperatures across the state.
We're taking you live to Ocean City tonight. The temperatures nearing the triple digits.
Let's go to Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers with the latest.
Yeah, even Ocean City was in the low and mid 90s today and over the weekend, and the heat continues here. Record heat, in fact, now day 3 of record heat. We're going to be getting in the official numbers out of the National Weather Service about the actual high temperature that we hit. But by the hourly observations, 98 thus far is the hottest we've been, and that is a new record for the day. Heat advisory continues through 8 p.m. this evening. I got a feeling this will be extended into tomorrow as well. Areas north and west of the Chesapeake Bay, including here in Baltimore City, so most of the state. 98 degrees in Baltimore right now, 96 at Cockeysville, 97 at Westminster, double nines out of Frederick, and 93 at Easton. And look at that real field temperature. Now, if this were, say, July, August, this is really unusual for this time of year after Labor Day now, but if this were July, August, some of these real field temperatures might even be higher as we'd be dealing with more humidity, but it's still muggy, so that does make it feel like 102 in Baltimore and a dangerous 106 at Cockeysville. Certainly nothing to scoff at here. Temperature at 97 at 5 p.m., feeling like 101. By 8 p.m., we're at 92, feeling like 93. 11 p.m., 86. Well, that feels like 86. That's better, but even the temperatures overnight just really kind of stifling, barely below 80 by about 2 a.m. Tomorrow, another day of this to deal with, but there are signs of improvement. Could have some showers and thunderstorms, maybe even severe weather, and then things get better. I'm going to let you know if your weekend forecast is shaping up more seasonably comfortable. It's in my Weather Authority forecast.
All right, we'll check back with you, Jen. Jonathan, thank you very much. The severe heat that we're facing is causing some problems for schools across the Baltimore area. Baltimore and Harford County Public Schools canceled all outdoor activities this afternoon. It comes as 11 city schools were forced to dismiss kids early because of a lack of AC.
Howard County, one of the many areas issuing a heat advisory tonight. The county health department says there are basic steps you can take to stay safe. You should never leave kids or pets in a car unattended during the heat. Make sure you're staying hydrated, stay out of the sun, and if you are outside, make sure you're taking breaks from whatever you're doing.
Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone. Use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms to your street. Go to your app store and search WBFF to get started.
In Harford County, a debate over term limits is brewing. One councilman is pushing for 8-year limits, while others say they want 12. Harford County Councilman Aaron Penman kicked off a petition drive for term limits Saturday, collecting signatures to get the measure on the ballot for voters in 2024.
Right now, what we have on the county charter is for the county executive has term limits. So he has 2 terms. He can take 1 term off and come back for 2 more terms. I want to apply that same logic to the county council.
But now other council members are introducing competing legislation.
I find it disappointing that legislation is being introduced, in opposition of the petition drive that I started to allow 3 terms.
On the agenda for tonight's meeting, Council Vice President Tony Giangiordano and Council members Riley and Guthrie are introducing their own term limit legislation. According to the bill, no person elected or appointed as a member of the county council shall be eligible for succession in the office of council member after serving in such office for 3 consecutive full 4-year terms.
Really kind of what that does is it really opens it up to be invested, be able to get benefits in retirement aspect as a council member. Currently, after 10 years, you become vested. And you're able to receive 1.5% per year that you have in service.
Penman says the proposed legislation, which doesn't directly mention pensions, seems self-serving. But Councilman Dion Guthrie, who's serving his 13th year, says it's not about pensions.
I don't think that has much to do about it.
He says he doesn't even really support term limits, but this bill is a compromise.
The bill that several of the members wanted to introduce to counter what's being done to be less than that. It could be confusing, but it does give the citizens a choice, and they can vote against both.
It's reminiscent to what happened in Baltimore City after voters overwhelmingly supported implementing term limits on Election Day 2022. Under the plan, the mayor, comptroller, city council president, and council members are now limited to 2 terms over a 12-year period. It spurred Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby to introduce a bill that would allow city leaders to be eligible for a pension after just 8 years of service rather than 12. Mayor Brandon Scott vetoed the bill, saying he couldn't, in good conscience, sign it. In Harford County, Penman is hoping things will go the same way.
If you can't figure it out in 8 years, then you probably can't figure it out anyways.
Now, we did reach out to the other 2 council members who have introduced this bill or plan to tonight. We have not heard back. That meeting is at 7:30 this evening.
In Baltimore County, the population continues to grow as people pack up and leave the city, but it is bringing a new debate to light surrounding who should fund the upkeep. Fox 45's Tom Rogers speaks to the Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski about the newly proposed task force.
As Baltimore City's population continues to dwindle and Baltimore County increases, the Department of Public Works has city leaders arguing the city should not be responsible for all decisions and upkeep and want more financial responsibility on county residents. Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski says a new water task force will help stop waste and provide accountability for the Department of Public Works, but stopped short of saying it would not raise taxes for county residents. This was legislation that was passed last session, January 31st. I thought there was a discussion about what this means. Baltimore City's arguing that they say, okay, we're losing population, yet we're responsible for the majority of the water going in and out, and for DPW, while Baltimore County, who has now a much larger population, pays less. Does this mean Baltimore County, if this task force deems it, will be seeing higher taxes?
You know, that's part of the reason why we have to have a conversation around this task force and why we push for it so forcefully. This is a system that serves almost 2 million people. It was last looked at in any significant way back in 1972. So we really need to update our systems, our policies, our openness. Baltimore County is responsible for funding about half of the system, although we really have no insight as to where the money's going, how the operations are. And so we're working closely with this task force to make sure there is transparency, there is accountability, so that the taxpayer dollars are being used in an efficient way. Clearly, that's the last thing we want to raise rates on water users or our residents.
Well, Executive Olszewski says the Baltimore Regional Water Governance Task Force should fulfill its responsibility by providing recommendations before the next legislative session begins, meaning he hopes to have results in either December or January. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
Turning now to a city in crisis 2 months later and still no arrest for the actual shooter or shooters who killed 2 young people at the Brooklyn Day block party. Fox 45's Patrice Sanders speaks to a law enforcement expert on the 3 levels of failure being seen between city agencies.
2 months after the deadliest mass shooting in Baltimore history, questions remain about how and why it happened as the families of those killed and injured still wait for justice. A 173-page report details mistakes that were made and has led to finger-pointing about who's at fault. Law enforcement expert Morin says police should not bear the brunt of the responsibility.
Well, let's look at that report. I think it was basically a sham. I think it was very superficial, and it's going to lead to the destruction of the police department. Only the police were held accountable. Everyone else let off the hook, starting with the tenant who allowed that illegal party to start on their property. No eviction, no consequences. Safe Streets knew about this event well in advance, didn't call the police. Intervened with 2 conflicts with guns and put those people back in the crowd. Were they the ones that did the shooting later? Very likely. They're not cooperating with the investigation. Safe Streets knows who's involved. And finally, the drug dealers who have financed Brooklyn Day, not only this time, but in the past.
Is there not some accountability on the part of police?
In that report on page 51, if people want to look, they have the police operational plan from last year where they deployed about 30 officers ahead of time. And in that, they say This is the police saying that this is a drug dealer sponsored event.
Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Still ahead tonight, all roads this week lead to M&T Bank Stadium for the Ravens home opener. Morgan Adsit has the preparation coming up.
Plus, a story of survival. Next, a woman shares her journey battling breast cancer. You'll hear her recount the hardest part of the journey.